let's say that's equivalent to how crazy it is, the odds are of having a birth like you have now. Because it takes so much virtue. So you should be rejoicing in all the beautiful things that you've done in the past to give yourself this kind of situation, this body, this opportunity. I mean, you're all sitting here, you're all interested in meditating, you're all interested in these ideas. That's not normal. That is a very rare kind of a karma, right? A more extreme karma than the people who also have bodies just like we do, but are very much fettered to a life of, right? They don't have any concerns except for making ends meet with paychecks, right? That's their whole life. Their whole life is interest rates, getting that house paid off, death, right? And they're not gonna think about this stuff. And when you talk about them, they're not gonna be interested, right? It's a very different kind of karma to be with a sane mind, considering, making a good lash at becoming an enlightened being, right? Yeah, I'm gonna give a crack at this. I'm gonna give it a go. Why not? I mean, what else are you gonna give a go at? Right? I don't know. What are you gonna give a go at? What could you possibly give a go at that's gonna work? I can't think of one thing. I've done a lot of things too. I've had a lot of jobs in my life, all kinds of jobs and all kinds of things, and they don't work. None of it works. So you got to figure out how to make it work for you. You got to figure out, okay, I have that. Now what do I do with it? And there are three parts to the subject of taking the essence of life, as discussed in the Lam Rim. So there are steps shared with those of lesser capacity, steps shared with those of medium capacity, and steps for those of greater capacity. And all of these capacities refer to the ability to reach for certain goals, and they're all involved with certain motivations. Now, I know that some people in this room know what those motivations are, so let's consider steps shared with those of lower capacity. Steps shared with lower capacity is working hard all your life so that when you die, your kids get your house. That's lower capacity.
Yes.
That is lower capacity. So a lower capacity practitioner has no desire to accomplish anything except for a little assurance when they die that their kids will have a house.
Sure.
Okay. So if that's the case, then if that is their wish, then that must mean that there's a higher capacity.
Yes.
So the lower capacity people want to get houses and die. So the higher capacity people want something else.
Yes.
You can't tell me what that is. I'm going to say medium. Sorry, I didn't say higher. Medium capacity. The medium capacity person must want something better than the house. So, and you can't tell me what that is.
No.
You can.
Yeah.
Sure.
To avoid
Any rebirth at all. Okay. So are you trying to tell me that a medium capacity person wants to avoid any kind of cyclic rebirth? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so yeah, this medium capacity practitioner, they have this motivation. They do stuff to avoid rebirth, and they avoid rebirth for everyone else is sick.
No.
Oh no, it's not for everyone else's sake.
Yes.
It's for their own sake.
No.
Oh, it's for everyone else's sake.
What
Medium. We're back in the same one. So
Okay.
medium capacity people. I disagree with you. Yeah, okay.
Medium. What did you?
I disagree with you. The medium capacity practitioner, their motivation is so that they don't get reborn in cyclic life, cyclic samsara. And I said, yeah.
Yes.
And then I said, and also they want to do it for every other being. That's their motivation. Every other being.
No.
It's not their motivation.
Yes.
Right. So they want to do it for themselves.
Yes.
Ah. So a medium capacity practitioner, their motivation is to avoid any rebirth at all for themselves alone. That's their motivation. So that seems like a pretty lofty goal. So are you still sticking with the fact that the lower capacity people, somehow the lower capacity person has this wish for a house, and somehow they leap to wishing for no rebirth. You can't explain how that is.
Yes.
You can explain it. No, you can't explain it. Okay, let's consider those of great capacity. The practitioners of greater capacity, they don't share the other motivations. They have their own motivations. They don't share the capacity of the lower.
No.
They don't. So what you're telling me that a higher capacity person does not wish to avoid rebirth.
No.
They do wish to avoid rebirth.
Yes.
So they do share it.
Yes.
They do share that wish. Okay. So the greater capacity motivation is to avoid cyclic rebirth, you're saying, but they also just for themselves
No.
alone. No, there's something else that makes them the greater capacity.
Yes.
You can't tell me what it is. Can't tell me what it is. No way you can tell me what it is.
Yes.
You can. You can't.
Oh, no.
You can tell me.
Yes.
Show.
They want the same for everyone else as well.
Right. So the steps. So the greater capacity practitioner is motivated to avoid rebirth at all, and they want their kids to have a house. They share that as well, and they also want every living being to reach that same goal. So because it's a path shared, they feel that every living being should also wish for a house for their kids. So they wish. So because it's path shared and they all share the same path. So that what you're telling me essentially by your grandiose declarations is that the greater way of the Bodhisattva not only wishes for complete and total enlightenment for the sake of every other living being, but wants everyone in the world to have a house for their kids. They also wish that. Oh, so there's something else that they share the path with.
Yes.
Oh, so now we're back to so that must take us to the lower capacity. So the lower capacity practitioner, they have, the motivation is something else besides just getting out.
Yes.
You can't tell me what it is.
No.
You can.
Yes.
Sure.
To avoid a lower rebirth.
Right. And what would a lower rebirth be exactly? What? Give me the examples of what would be a lower rebirth than human.
Like animal.
Yeah.
Ghost.
Yeah. Or Predator is hungry ghost, right? And one more. Hell being. Yeah. So that was a rather fun way to get to the three parts to the subject of taking the essence of this life. So lesser capacity, they are interested in avoiding a lower rebirth. Right? They don't want to go to hell. They don't want to be a hungry ghost. They don't want to be an animal. Just for themselves alone. Okay. Medium capacity practitioner wants to avoid a cyclic rebirth, doesn't want to be in samsara ever again, don't want it ever again. Just for themselves alone. But it's called shared because they also don't want to go lower, right? But then step up, and then finally the greater way, or the greater capacity, is they want the first two things, but we tag on for the sake of every other living being as well. So, and the greater capacity, there are two parts to that, and that is learning to think like a bodhisattva and learning how to act like a bodhisattva, right? Now, what is very, very good to recognize is that you may spend, in the course of one day, you may be all three of those, right? You're striving towards hitting the place of being a person who walks through the earth acting like a bodhisattva. You're serving others, you're doing the six perfections, you're being kind, right, to others, you're giving to others, you're having lots of patience, you're having lots of joyful effort, developing your concentration, developing your wisdom, all with the motivation to become a totally enlightened being for the sake of every other living being. When you reach that place where you reach that permanently, you're no longer waffling. But until then, you may have you may have a period of the day where you're just thinking about, I don't want to go to hell, right? Or you just think, I don't want a lower rebirth. That may be like this thing that goes through your mind, and you're not really thinking about anybody else. You're just like thinking about me. Oh God, I can't imagine like being a dog. And like for that 5 minutes, that's who you are. So capacity is spiritual capacity. It's not like you enter a club, right, where it's like lower capacity club. Right? None of us here want to go to hell. Right? It's not like that, right? And you go, your capacity increases, and it will be, it will waffle and increase until finally it opens up till you're a greater capacity, 24/7.
I was thinking though, like if you're in the greater capacity,
Yeah.
don't you also have the desire to leave a house for your kids?
Absolutely.
Subjective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It does not mean that you don't.
Yeah.
Right. It just means that is, right. In fact, if you're a bodhisattva, then you with wisdom want to kind of have things to give to people. That's part of what you do, right? Part of purifying your own mind is making sure other people get stuff that they need. So of course, right? Of course. The next verse, so we're obviously not going through the whole Lam Rim right now, but goes like this. My body and the life in it are as fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I have died, the things I have done, the white or black, and what deeds will bring me follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. That's the death meditation part of the Lam Rim. And the death meditation part of the Lam Rim is, it's not a thing where you sit down and freak out because you're going to die, and freak out about the horrors of death, and oh my God, it's going to be painful and horrible. That's not a death meditation. A death meditation is where you sit down and you just consider these three things, really. No one can tell me the three steps to a death awareness meditation, because there are no 3 steps to a death awareness meditation.
Yes.
No one can. I guess we're done.
No.
Oh. No, someone can. Dave can.
Yes.
Show.
Death is certain. Time of death is uncertain. Only thing that matters at time of death is your spiritual attainment.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. So, that's the short strokes of a death awareness meditation, is that you're supposed to consider these things, and there's actually 9 parts to the whole thing, but each one of those has 3 parts, but this isn't the class to go into that. But like the verse said, only your deeds shall remain, right? Whatever you've done, whatever virtue you've done and whatever non-virtue you've done at the moment of death is what carries on, right? And what explodes into your next life. And where you forget what you were before. Your concept of what you were before is totally gone. I mean, you know this because do you remember your last one? Right? You can actually remember your other ones, but it takes deep meditative concentration. And this is the same thing where you do a review meditation and then you sink into a single-pointed meditation, right? Like you could say, death is certain, and maybe you don't like. Most people don't entertain that thought, right? They just don't. Everyone thinks they have a whole bunch of time. And it's only when someone close to us dies or we see some freakish thing on television or something that we just for a second go, whoa, it could happen to me any second, right? So you sit and you do stuff like, you try in your mind, okay, do I know anyone, like, have I ever heard about anyone that just has never died? And okay, well, I guess I'm going to die. You know? And then you think about things like, okay, this body is made of substances that came into being when I was born. They can't last forever. Right? The fact that they came into being has to mean that it's going to stop. Okay, then I guess this body's got to go, and if this body's not there, well, then I guess that means I'm dead, right? Things like that. And that you just don't know when. The most powerful meditation I've ever done on this was happened, and what you do is you do like a review meditation like that, and then you turn it into analytical. Single pointed. You get this review, and then you're like, oh, I will die, and I don't know when. And you just hold that. And the most powerful ever it was for me was like all of a sudden I just like went, I have to clean my shed. I can't leave that behind, right? Then I started thinking about because I was like, well, really, it could happen now, like or now. I was like really like that, and I was like, whoa! I was like really going, wow, now or now, and then I started going over all the mess in my house, right? And I thought somebody's gonna have to sort that crap out, right? And then I started thinking, I got to clean that up, which doesn't mean that I did that, but I definitely, for a second there, I really wanted to. I was in retreat, so I couldn't have, anyways. But I think if I had been home, then I would have. Yeah. And that there's no certainty when, right? Now, when you die, only the Dharma can help you. This is, it's a little elusive. What do you think that means? Only the Dharma can help you when you die. What's your first kind of thought on that?
At the time of death.
Yeah.
So that's your final thought. It's supposed to determine what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah, your final thought, right? It's like that, right? We think that. We have this weird idea that we're all going to die chilled out on white sheets in the hospital or something. like we're gonna have this beside us. Oh, I'm gonna die in an hour. Okay. Right? Like, I seriously doubt that a person's going to be thinking of the Dharma as their head is going through the broken glass of their car. Right? I seriously doubt that if you walk across the street and somebody comes out of nowhere and just destroys your body, that you're going to be thinking about the Dharma. It's not like that. It's not like your last thought. It's relevant, though, and I'll tell you why it's relevant. What you're saying is pointing at the truth. When you do die, whether or not you're hanging out in a deathbed and you know it's coming, or whether it's instantaneous, you go through these very specific hallucinations. And your whole world collapses in upon itself. You lose everything. You lose... you can think of it as like far away from you, your whole world, because you are your whole world, right? Like, the moment that you die, the world that you see ceases to exist. Like a whole universe collapses when you die. There's a whole universe that you are keeping alive by being in this body. That was profound for me when my mom died. It helped me a lot when my mom died, because I was supposed to give a speech. I remember, and she'd been dead for about 4 or 5 days, and I woke up. It was about 4 in the morning. I woke up, and I thought to myself, what is this feeling, right? What is this hole inside of me? I'm trying to think, what is that feeling? What is that hole inside of me? And I realized what it was. It was the world it was the version of myself that existed in my mom's world no longer existed. Right? So the me that I was in relation to my mother was gone. Right? Who I was when she looked at me could no longer exist. And so what she took with her when she went, she sucked the whole universe right into her heart like that when she died. And by the sheer force of reality, took that with her. And that was very helpful for me. That was very profound. And I talked about it when I gave the speech. And I think it was helpful to people to understand why they grieve. Right? They grieve the loss, but really deep down, they didn't just lose this person. They lost themselves. Part of them got torn out. That can never exist ever again. Can never exist ever again. Right? So you can think of it in that way. Your whole universe, right, collapses in upon itself. Your loved ones can't help you, right? This body that you have done so many things to make nice gets torn away from you. It all goes. And then you go through this series of hallucinations where your earth element, evaporates into water and then fire, and all the elements just collapse, and then your mind goes through this insane horror of losing everything as you grasp to this self that you think is real and isn't, right? That's the way a normal person dies. If you're a yogi, who's been meditating his or her little butt off your whole life and contemplating the coming of death, and maybe even practicing some of these hallucinations that help you at the time, which is not this class, but then you die differently. So if you do have this abrupt situation, only Dharma can help you in the sense that all the Dharma that you have put into your mind your whole life is the only thing that's going to be what will be helpful for you in that moment. Because when you die, they say it's like I don't know how do they say it. It's like the most prominent seed is going to pop, which is similar to what you're saying, right? The most prominent seed is going to pop. So if you've been contemplating, love for others, contemplating no grasping at the self, cherishing others, bodhicitta, right? Everyone's your mother, doing all these kinds of meditations, big time on emptiness of objects, da 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 da, and you've been having that as your main focus as best you can, as opposed to mortgages and cars and worldly, right? Whatever, worldly things. Then in the moment of all that chaos, the most prominent seed is the Dharma. And then it explodes into your next life. And then you're born like a human and you get some teachings. Because that's the perception that you fill, that your mind fills. So, right? Little different. Same idea, but a little different. So, if you are considering that only, so that's supposed to entice you to practice as much as you can all the time, without this thought that at the moment of life I'll pull out this little card and be able to pull it off somehow. Right? It's a constant thing. And then we talk about briefly the 3 trainings. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrong of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of the Buddha's teaching. And it goes on. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of the suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, everyone my mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice the highest wish for enlightenment, to take upon myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself is not enough, for if I am not well trained in the 3 moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the vows for the children of the victors. Grant that I might quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. So that's as far as we go today. So that big chunk of, now that I know that I may die, may my morality count, may I act how I should. That's, and then on into the Bodhisattva. Okay. Then on into the Bodhisattva motivation, bodhicitta, the vows, and then on into stillness and insight, right? Wisdom. That was all encompassed inside the 3 trainings, the 3 extraordinary trainings. And that's The first one is the extraordinary training of morality, which is, learning how to be kind to others to benefit your own mind and others as well. And then the extraordinary training of concentration, and that's quietude, developing quietude, right? And then the extraordinary training of wisdom, developing that analytical power to intellectually and finally, ultimately, see the reality of what isn't in the watch. Surely understand that there ain't no watch here, other than the watch that you see, right? So right at the very end of class, I think this is the very end of class, and I think that there's a couple homework questions at the end that I need to give you. And I'm pretty sure it's got to do with these two definitions. Yes. The definition of quietude and the definition of insight. So, remember we talked about the 9 stages and reaching that shamatha, right? That 9th stage. So this is the definition of quietude, which is also called shamatha. So this defines this 9th stage. Okay? That single-mindedness, which is imbued with the exceptional bliss of practiced ease due to deep single-pointed meditation on its object. That single-mindedness, which is imbued with the exceptional bliss of practiced ease due to deep single-pointed meditation on its object. So that's level 9 right there.
You said it again.
Yes, I can. That single-mindedness, which is imbued with the exceptional bliss of practiced ease due to deep single-pointed meditation on its object. Yeah? Which ones didn't you get?
Can you do it again?
Yeah. Okay. That single-mindedness, which is imbued with the exceptional bliss of practiced ease due to deep, single-pointed meditation on its object.
Got it.
All right. So that's so when you reach this point, how you what you do then is you take that ability and then you bear it down upon something, right? Which is what they call insight. When they say quietude and insight, they mean, okay, bless me, pray that I may reach quietude. Bless me that I may reach level 9, right? And then bless me that I may then reach insight. And here's the definition of insight. That wisdom, I'll go really slow just once this time. That wisdom, which is full of the exceptional bliss of practiced ease by power of the analysis of its object and which is founded upon quietude. Dan, you want to read it back? You got it?
That wisdom which is full of the exceptional bliss of practiced ease by power of the analysis of its object, and which is founded upon quietude.
Nice. Yeah, so you've got number 9 happening, and then you turn your concentration onto something. And essentially what you're supposed to turn it onto is emptiness, your understanding of emptiness. That's it. That's the class. Any questions?
Not now.
Not now. Okay. I also wanted to say, anybody, if you want to take my email down, anybody wants to ask me any questions anytime, just fire at will. I'll tell my email is.
Erase mine.